By 1981, Garry Kasparov had earned his spurs. Though still a tender 18 years of age, his ferocious talent demanded that he clear ever higher hurdles, and now it was time to take on the grown-ups, and for him this meant only one thing: the world elite. For a player increasingly expected to emerge not just as a world title contender, but perhaps one of the youngest ever, success had to follow success. Waiting at the end of the arduous road to the chess throne was Anatoly Karpov, not just one of the greatest champions, but one still in the prime of his career. And besides his formidable skills on the board, Karpov wielded considerable influence in the equally vital spheres of chess and Soviet politics, as we shall see. This stage of Kasparov's development would be crucial in more ways than just the pure improvement of his game. Allies would also have to be made. Kasparov's charisma on and off the board would win him vital guidance from former champions, eager to see a dynamic change at the top. But Garry would have to do the hard work himself, and behind each new dazzling success there were nervous moments. What can look like steady, heady success was often just an inch from frustration. A close look at Kasparov's career reveals a remarkable amount of sheer brinkmanship, with victory forged by a phenomenal will and the ability to rise to daunting challenges. This character trait would eventually create some of the most dramatic moments in the game, and hints of this high-tension gamesmanship can be seen even on Kasparov's early steps up the ladder to fame. If one thing characterizes or unifies the games of Kasparov in this period of his career, it was the whirlwind aggression of his play. At the time, one should remember, the chess world had become used to the quiet, clinical precision of reigning champion Karpov. Many players tried to emulate, or at least greatly influenced by, the champion's safe, sane and practical style. Super tournaments were won by the player who went undefeated, and risks were taken by gamblers, not by grandmasters. Even today, with chess in the 21st century so clearly bearing the dynamic stamp of Kasparov, games like the next one still have the power to take your breath away. Imagine the impact made by this remarkable tactical display when it was played. The mechanics of the game's memorable combinational finish are simply exquisite. I first met you at the World Student Team Championships in Graz in 1981. And we had ambitions, we English. we were doing quite well until we played the Russians. We were 2.5 points ahead of you at that time.
Yeah.
We won some board prizes, like myself, Mestel and Davis.
Yes.
Some guy on board one for Russia scored 9 out of 10, I remember.
Yep, correct. Yeah, I played very well this event. It was a very nice mixture of good, creative chess and many points. So I was quite lucky in some games, like with Wonderwell, but I was always creative. So I liked the way I played there, and it helped the team, and also it proved again that with players from my generation, I was definitely the strongest, and it's always a pleasure to be a leader of the team that is winning convincingly, and you are contributing most to this victory. So the game we're looking at, it's in our match against Brazil. It was my last game in the tournament, and I played first 10 games in a row, so I missed only the last round when the victory was sealed already for the Soviet team. I had 8 out of 9. And played Sudia. Was not very impressive opening, so Black had reasonably comfortable game, but not much I could create with isolated pawn. And at move 32, Sunia wasn't.
It's one of the earliest games of yours I can remember where you had an isolated queen's pawn.
Yeah, but I was never scared of having isolated pawn. So I knew that there would be plenty of opportunities for my pieces, just to jump around this pawn and sometimes to create threats for the opponent's king. So that's why I never had any problems of accepting the isolated pawn. But this game was very heavy, solid positional game, so Black had not many options to create initiative on the king's side. And soon he offered me a draw, and I think position is roughly equal. Maybe white is slightly better, but
he offered you a draw.
He offered me a draw.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, he offered me a draw. But I discovered an interesting maneuver. So not that this maneuver is just changing the dynamics of the position, but it's always unpleasant for an opponent in time trouble to discover that a new opponent, a new piece of opposite color is joining a potential attack.
Don't see much of an attack for you here, but show me.
Okay, knight e7. The knight goes on f5, potential on h4, but I couldn't even imagine that this knight would play such a significant role in a big king's hunt that will start in a few moves, just in a few moves. So I refused to accept a draw, played knight e7, and...
so this is move 32, you say he's a bit short of time, and you?
A bit. Well, I had more time, yes. I don't remember how much, but definitely, you know, I was more comfortable. So after knight e4, rook g6, you know, black is already playing on white's nerves. It's nothing yet dangerous, but sometimes it's unpleasant to have rook on g6, x-raying pawn on g2. So bishop d3 and now queen d7. Here was a key move, because now I'm threatening to take on h3, and also if white played f3, then I have knight g3, which leads to unclear position. Hard to evaluate, but it's very unpleasant to play f3 in a time trouble. So obviously, if you have any chance, you'll try to avoid playing f3.
Even not in time trouble.
No, even yeah. So obviously, Sunia played king h1, which I don't think was a really good move, because after knight f5, you know, probably the best for white was just to exchange the knights and still play f3. And again, it led to a similar position where black has its chances. Took on e4, d4, and he planned to play rook ed2, and now it seems that black is in a bit of trouble, because, you know, it's again an x-ray on d file and rook on d8, queen on d7. He obviously underestimated knight h4.
He's lost now, isn't he?
I think now, yes, now he's lost, and after knight h4, you know, black happily executed the main idea, I mean, the plan. Knight from c6 went to h4, and suddenly black has more than enough pieces to create decisive threats.
Yes. Pawn e4 is useful as well.
Absolutely.
You were telling me before you count these pawns as attacking units.
Absolutely. So we already have 4 attacking units now. Queen from d7, you know, attacking h3, rook on g6, knight on h4, pawn on e4, and potentially bishop from c5.
Yes, you managed to activate that. We'll be seeing shortly.
So Sunni realized that not knight f5, the move he planned. I mean, after simple take on a5, would be a king h7.
Tremendous attack.
It's not tremendous attack. It's the end of the game. So it's the. I thought it would be winning, but now with computer I was able to check that it's an easy win for black. There are 4 pieces and potentially bishop in the attack, and no one is defending white's king. So black has a decisive material advantage in the battlefield, because you know, you can just cut the board in 2, and you see that all white pieces on one side and the king on another side, and that proves that on the real battlefield, white had no resources to fight. So very bad luck for white.
Were you often doing that at that time? Declining draws in situations where you thought you were slightly objectively worse?
No, I don't think that this was a pattern. But again, I found an idea to play knight e7. I found not a trick, but something that would create potential problems for my opponent, and I didn't think I was in danger of any kind.
So it's a sound game, you think?
It's a sound game. So why not to decline a draw and keep playing, because there are some interesting options, and anything happens in the time trouble, and you know, it was not a bluff. It was not an outstanding risk. It was a very sound decision. So after knight h4, Sunni changed the plan. He went on e6, but obviously, you know, now black has already decisive material advantage. So knight f4, it's the unfortunate retreat. Otherwise, you know, it would be even worse. So rook g5, and black is won. So, but after the king g1, you know, I managed to calculate a very precise and unusual combination, and that's the reason I selected this game. It's, if I found it during my analysis, I mean, I wouldn't dare it would have been. It still was very nice, but I had to seal the move here, and I sealed the move knight f3 check, seeing practically all variations, except, you know, with some minor details have been analyzed with my teammates, just within this 2 or 3 hours gap between two sessions. But I saw the main theme by sealing move knight f3, and it's very nice. I guess it's always a big pleasure to finish the game and the tournament, the victorious tournament, with the variety of mating combinations. So he played king f1. So after king h1 was the main line, bishop takes e3, and now after f takes e3, rook takes g2, rook g3. That's nice.
Not unknown, but it's a very rare setup.
Yeah. So
did you remember some combination or study when you played that?
Yeah. Somehow we played in my mind. You know, it's sort of the music theme. So I saw knight on h4 going, knight is going on f3. So now I need rook on g3. It's sort of associative memory, and then you realize that it's happening. Actually, you can reach it. So when you see the final position.
I don't remember any classic game, or even any game, where the exact. Well, I've seen it before, the idea, but I can't actually think of an exact.
Yeah, there were some games, but obviously of the very low, of the very low level. So it didn't happen in the games of professional players. As grandmasters.
So even bishop e5 now is in that position. You just ignore that, don't you?
Yeah. Take on h3. So
bishop h2, and then it's moved.
Yes. So there's another, option, knight e6, and among different. Winning moves, black could create another mating net. So if queen takes on e3, rook g2 mate, and knight g5, bishop f4 mate. So it's like in a movie, you have different scenes, but everything is connected, with one theme. And okay, Sunier, I guess he also analyzed it, and he found that king h1 is losing so badly. He played king f1, and amazingly it's still bishop takes e3. So white has no choice. Now rook takes g2, and here is the only move. So he should play queen c3, otherwise, black puts two rooks on the second rank after queen b6, rook h2 and rook g2. And it's too much for white to handle. So queen c3, and now black has to be a bit more creative. King h7. That's important move. That's move I saw by sealing the move, because now black is avoiding king h7. No, you cannot go on g2 because queen c8, queen f5, perpetual. So that's very important. Then you have to play king h7, creating this threat, rook g2. And Sunier played queen c8 now. I mean, the other choice was queen b4, trying to attack pawn e4, and after f5, queen b5 to attack pawn f5, preventing rook g2. But then this pawn goes, forward. Remember, game was Romanician, similar. f5, f4, queen b4, and that's the easiest, because if he takes on d2, f3, and there's no defense from rook h1 and rook g2 mate. So
you gave away both your minor pieces.
Yes, but now we have two rooks and two pawns, so that's more than enough to mate an opponent's king. And a couple of lines like king e1. There's no mate here, but there's an extra queen now. That's enough to win the game. So Sunier played rook queen c8, and suddenly black changed the construction, changed the mating construction. Now rook f1 mate is a threat, and if he goes on f4 with a knight, then rook h2 and mate.
In the glory years of Soviet chess, it would not raise eyebrows to have a world champion fail to capture this national title. The USSR Championship was a magic event which often featured a field more intimidating than the later stages of the world title itself. In 1981, Kasparov's form curve made him one of the favourites, and this event would prove to be a severe test. Despite brilliant form, Kasparov would again flirt with failure, and his race with Lev Sakis would hinge on dramatic last-round heroics. Kasparov holds 3 games from this pivotal event dear, and the first presentation is a chess rarity. It's a duet. This pair of games helped create the reputation of Kasparov as an omniscient theoretician, a man whose opening preparations started long after others stopped. More significant than the results, perhaps, is the sheer joy of combat that these games must have brought Kasparov. For could it be only coincidence that his two foes in this high-powered analytical feud would become his trusted seconds in Kasparov's later world title matches with Garry?